the Remote No Pressure podcast. Bill, it's great to have you on the horn.
Hey, it's good to be on the horn.
Oh, so many stupid thoughts.
Yep.
But either way, we're practicing the social distancing. We are actually living in Michigan, which is they have the strictest rules of any other state in the country right now. We are on lockdown. So one of the things that I wanted to bring up before we get started is our live fly tying night here next Tuesday has been canceled. The giveaways have been canceled because we can't source the materials because our fly shops are all closed. We can't get out of the house. I can't get together with Matt Peisert and video him. Nothing. Everything has gone crazy over COVID-19, and I say crazy, not like it's a bad thing. We have to do what we have to do, but we're all on lockdown here. And how are you doing, Bill?
Oh, I'm doing fine over here.
Yeah,
just a few miles away from you.
Well, I saw that you were, and if you're tuning in on, you may not know this, but if you're tuning in on our YouTube channel, please subscribe. You'll notice that I don't have Bill here with me. His microphone is here. However, Bill is not here. I have a basket full of gear. Whether or not that makes it into the cut, I don't know. But it's not the same as having you next to me, Bill. I'll be honest with you.
Is there just an empty mic next to you?
Just an empty mic next to you. And after this episode, I'm going to go pour a 40 on the curb when I get out of
I was just going to say that.
Were you really? Going to?
Yep.
I was going to go take a 40 of malt liquor, and I'm going to pour it on the curb.
It would have to be a good one, because I had high taste, when I was drinking. So, yeah, go get a Founders.
A Founders. Okay. I tell you what, that's what I'll do. I'm going to actually pour a beer out on the curb.
Yeah. I'm not even going to say what kinds, but yeah.
That's pretty funny, Bill. So everything's going good with you, though? I mean, you're homebound. Are you getting any projects done or anything like that?
A little bit of yard work done, because it's gorgeous weather. I mean, it's in the 50s here. And, doing a little yard work. Manning the phones for my day job. And, keeping busy.
Working from home, doing your thing. That's good. My buddy, one of my really good friends, his dad actually got diagnosed with the whole COVID thing. His dad's in his 80s, and he's on a ventilator. So our thoughts are with them for sure, because it's a real thing. We really want people to be careful, but yeah, it's been pretty wild. Well, it's good to catch up with you, Bill. What do you think's been the craziest part of this whole thing?
Just the whole experience. I mean, the everything shutting down and the government kind of keeping us at home. It's just never thought we'd see this. It's crazy. Yeah,
it kind of reminds me. Did you ever see that movie in the 80s? What was it called? Red Dawn.
Yes, they did a remake of that a few years ago.
It was not nearly as good as the original, though.
No, it was not. It was the Koreans this time.
I think we actually talked about this on another podcast, a previous podcast before, when I realized that it was Mexico the first time that invaded, but it was through the Russians or something like that. But they had used Mexico to invade. So everyone was speaking Spanish, because I was up 1 a.m, and one of those, when you get those, those free channels, at 1 a.m. It's
I gotta watch HBO this weekend because it's a free weekend.
1 a.m. HBO comes with Cinemax, doesn't it?
I think it does.
I think I'm gonna. It's a free weekend. No, but I ended up watching it one night in the middle of the night, and I was like, oh my gosh, they're speaking Spanish. That it's Mexico that invaded, and I always thought it was the Russians, but eventually you realize that it was the Russians through Mexico.
I think you were limiting the Russians from learning Spanish. I think they're pretty smart people. They could do that.
They could. Who says a Russian can't know Spanish?
Wouldn't that throw us off our game too? These guys are just our neighbors to the south. They're not the Russians. What were we worried about?
They're not the Russians. They have a perfect Spanish accent. No, actually, and I talked about this when we had Uncle Cheech on the horn, but I went down to Argentina back in 2000, the year 2000, Y2K, and I remember a lot of Europeans there because of World War II. A lot of Germans went over there.
Yeah. Yeah, I think there's a History Channel show about that too, like Finding Hitler, it's called, and talking about the different cities down in Argentina and South America that fled Germany during at the end of World War II when the Allies won.
Yeah, I saw the same thing too. They basically said that Hitler stayed alive.
Mm-hmm.
And us being the conspiracy theorists that we are, that's something that we would thoroughly enjoy thinking about.
Oh yeah.
But it was very odd because here I am in Argentina, and everyone's like blonde hair, blue eyed. Not everyone, but a lot of them. You know, it was like lighter skin and blue eyes. It was very strange.
Feels like West Michigan.
It felt like Europe. It felt a lot like Europe. I was like, this is very, very weird. But yeah, everyone's speaking Dutch like West Michigan.
Everyone's speaking Dutch.
No, that was there's a store here called Vanderveens, and they sell wooden clogs, you know.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And me not being as a young person, I wasn't as intellectually smart. What was emotional intelligence?
No, that's emotional intelligence would be more street smart. Where if you're talking more intellectual, like IQ. Not
No,
EQ.
I'm talking about emotional intelligence because I was just an idiot. So
okay.
I went.
My bad.
I went to Vanderveens, and being the Dutch place that it is I put these wooden clogs on my shoe, and I walked around the store. Now this has been like 15 years ago. Okay, I walked around the store and I was like, "Fliegen, flogen, flugen, flog," and the guy was so mad at me, and I was like, "I didn't know it was such a touchy subject." Speaking of which. Speaking of funny and sticking your foot in your mouth, Bill, do you remember 2 episodes ago when I said that I'm follicularly challenged?
Yep. I did, and I was talking with my wife about that, and right when I first said it, she's like, "That's not what that means."
So, if there was a gynecologist listening, they probably spit their coffee out when I said that.
Are you going to read the definition?
I don't have it in front of me, but I know it. Well, see, what happens is there's a certain book out right now called In the Flow. Okay, that my wife has been reading. Okay,
Go on.
And she told me, I guess I've been hearing the word follicular a lot. Like, I've been hearing that word a lot around the house.
Is that like just common talk around the house? Like, oh,
or right now, like different stages, different stages of this particular cycle. Okay.
Yeah.
People can use their imaginations. I already brought up the OBGYN. Okay. Someone laughed their butt off when I said I'm follicular challenged. No, or follicular challenge. I can't remember the exact word, but it is a stage in the female cycle. So that is definitely sticking my foot in my mouth. And look, you know, we went to like emotional intelligence and then intellectual. Like that is not very intellectual.
No,
that's
really you're failing on IQ and EQ.
It's the exact opposite. Exact opposite. So, anyways, my apologies to all the female listeners. If you'd like to shoot me an email, feel free to do that. I'm willing to admit that I was wrong. I am. God, what an idiot. But anyways, in other news. Bill, how's the toilet paper situation?
I am fully stocked myself. I mean, like, we were fully stocked and I still went to Costco and we stocked up more.
It's kind of funny because, like, right before this all hit, my wife went to Costco and bought some toilet paper.
Yep.
And she brought it home and it barely fit in our closet. This is before anything happened, right? And I was like, that's a little over the top. Like, we don't need that much toilet paper, but hallelujah. It's a Christmas miracle.
And our thinking was, too, like, what if family needs it or something, you know?
Sure. Or your co-host. Maybe your co-host.
Or co-host. What if you ran out, you know? Well, I couldn't get it to you now because we're in lockdown, but...
Right. You could mail it. Well, can you go to the post office now? You probably can't even go to the post office.
I don't think so. You can put it in your box, but I don't think a roll would fit in the box.
Well, let me ask you this question, Bill. If you were to run out of toilet paper, okay, what would be the first thing you would do? What would come to mind? if you ran out of toilet paper?
I'd probably go looting.
Just go on a rage. Just start breaking stuff.
Yep.
Well, evidently, according to Fox News, one of our favorite news stations here, foxnews.com, fair and balanced. Actually, they have a thing going on right now. They posted an ad, coronavirus, quote unquote, emergencies. Oregon police ask people to stop dialing 911 because they ran out of toilet paper.
Oh, that was my second guess.
You were going to call 911?
Yep. After I was done looting, I was going to call 911.
How does that conversation go?
Hey, sorry, just got done looting. Couldn't find toilet paper. Can you have somebody deliver me some?
Well, I mean, do you call from the toilet when it's too late? Or
I would imagine first you're going to go unlock your door, and then you're going to go to the bathroom, and then you're going to call because you don't want them breaking down your door.
Right, to get you toilet paper.
Mm-hmm.
So a police department in Oregon is urging people that if they run out of toilet paper, it's not worth calling 911. The Newport Police Department posted a surprising message on its Facebook page as shoppers across the country have flocked to supermarkets to stock up on supplies amid the coronavirus pandemic that has put much of the world on edge. It's hard to believe that we even have to post this. Do not call 911 just because you ran out of toilet paper. You will survive without our assistance. So
Wait, what? Where was this at again? Oregon?
Oregon, yeah.
Okay.
Newport.
Are they unlocked down there? Can you get out and still go shopping?
I'm not sure. I'm not familiar with all of the statewide lockdowns. I just know that Gretchen Whitmer, our wonderful governess, just said that we have the strictest in the country.
I don't know. Like, there are some cities that are stricter than us.
You think so?
San Francisco is locked down, from what I understand. Yeah.
San Francisco is kind of the perfect storm. You have a huge homeless population.
Yep.
And you have a lot of travelers. It's like one of the most concentrated population of people who travel in and out of Asia.
Mm-hmm.
So I could see how that could be a huge problem in a city like San Francisco.
Yeah.
Lots of travel, and they're on the West Coast, so they're traveling back and forth to Asia. Mm-hmm. That could be a big deal. But
crazy. Sorry, I interrupted the article though. Sorry.
No. It's pretty much the whole thing. I mean, it's not a real hard thing. I was just curious if you ever thought. Have you ever called 911 before, Bill?
I have, like when I've witnessed accidents or ran out of toilet paper, but nothing too crazy.
I'll tell you this story. So my father-in-law and I are up in Newaygo County. We're going fishing, so it does have something to do with fishing. So we're on our way up to Newaygo County, and the lady in front of us is just swerving back and forth between lanes. I mean, it was crazy because it's a 2-lane road.
Mm-hmm.
She's going back and forth, and she's on drugs. She's obviously on some sort of drug, or alcohol. I mean, it was just crazy. So we call 911, and we come back by about like 100 yards. And we're following her on the road. I think it's M37 all the way into downtown Newaygo, and we're on the phone with 911. They're telling us what to do. Where is she at? What car? What's her license plate? Yada yada. So we follow her, and she wrecks. I kid you not. The state police. There's a state police station there in downtown Newaygo.
Uh-huh.
She wrecked her car right in front of the state police. It didn't hurt anybody. No, she just. Yeah. That would totally be my luck right there.
Yep. That's like the worst luck in the world right there.
Yeah, there's no getting away from that.
No.
You're pretty much toast. So
did she just like stumble inside and say it? Yep, that was me.
That was me. I'll take full responsibility. No, we just drove by, because we were behind her by about 100 yards. So we just kept going. We had to get fishing, man. No one was hurt, only, maybe her, and there were cops behind her by the time she had the wreck. So it's like, there's nothing I can do. My hands are tied. I'm going fishing. I'm not going to give a statement. I'm just going to keep driving. And I kept driving. Well, today on the Remote No Pressure podcast, we have Mr. Steve Yewchuck. He is a fly tyer brought to us by Brandon Bales. He gave us a few names on fly tyers, people who tie flies. Very excited to have Steve on the podcast. Welcome to the podcast. Let's light the fire. Well, today on the Remote No Pressure podcast, I'm very excited to have, as we continue our fly tyers of Instagram, Mr. Steve Yewchuck. Thank you very much for hanging out with us, Steve.
Oh, you are welcome, Jeff. I appreciate the opportunity.
Yeah, I interviewed Brandon Bales a few weeks ago, and I asked him for a list of other fly tyers that he would personally recommend, and your name came up. So thank you very much, Brandon, for recommending Steve. Do you know Brandon pretty well, or?
I know Brandon, over the phone, and, him and I talk quite a bit and discuss fly tying and techniques and materials quite a bit. So, I've talked to him enough on the phone that I feel like I actually know him in person,
Yeah, now you're located up in the Northeast, right?
Correct. I'm just on the southern part of the Catskills.
So your accent and his accent are quite a bit different.
Oh yeah, yep, absolutely.
Yeah, it's funny because I talk to people from all over, and it's just funny to hear the speed, the tone, that you have depending on the regions. Now, you grew up fishing the Catskills, right?
Correct. Yeah, I grew up probably like 7 minutes from the main stem of the Delaware in a town called Narrowsburg. And then fished, of course, a lot of the east, the west, and the upper Maine, and a ton of other smaller creeks and rivers within the Catskill region.
Now, do you know Joe Demalderis?
I know him. I know of the name. I'm not sure if he knows me. I'm not going to say that he would, but I do. I've watched some of the stuff that he's done online, mousing and etc. So
yeah, he's like the king of the Upper Delaware. It's kind of like the reason I ask you about him is because, believe it or not, he was like, I owe so much to him. He was the first guest on our podcast ever.
That's awesome.
Yeah, he's just such a cool person.
Now, how did that come about?
When I started this podcast, I would literally sit at my desk every night, and I would email 10 people every single night until someone said yes. And because I didn't know anybody, I'll be honest with you, Steve, I didn't know one person in the industry or anything. And he emailed me back. He's like, sure, I'll do it, and we just really hit it off. He was very encouraging. And I'll be forever grateful for that initial conversation I had with him. He was such a nice human being. For him, I mean, this was a no name. Of course, it was 3 years ago. Not everyone had a podcast like they do now. But he was so incredibly nice and generous. So I didn't know if you knew him or not, but I will forever be grateful for Joe for his kindness to me. So.
Oh, that's awesome. A lot of my friends, know him well. Like I said, I mean, I spend quite a bit of time up there, but when I do, it's usually, me, my family, or, super close friends. Just because the time fishing is so valuable. It's definitely one of the things I do need to get out and do more as well. Kind of brush shoulders with the older generation, because I'm always about learning. And every time I do, you absolutely learn some pretty good stuff.
Yeah, and just. It just seems like this community, people are always giving back to each other. People are pretty cool in the fly tying community.
Yeah, I would definitely agree with that. I mean, everybody, for the most part, that I've ran into is definitely, willing to, share, and it's cool because it's really awesome to be inspired or to inspire people, to tie flies, whether it's older or younger generation in general.
Now, how did you start tying flies? I know you grew up fishing in the Catskills, and I think you were introduced to the migratory fish of the Great Lakes and whatnot. But how did you start tying? What was that process like, Steve?
I started years ago, actually. My grandfather had this crazy shoebox that he gave me, and it had like really old vice in it. And a couple tools and a bunch of feathers. And he and my father had tied very basic, simple, kind of like foam feather caddis patterns and stuff like that. which, I tied. And then I kind of faded away from it. And then I don't know when I actually really came back into it full swing. But it's been quite a while now. I would say probably the last 10 years I've been tying pretty crazily, and it only gets worse, it seems like.
Now, do you have a day job, or is fly tying your main employment there?
I do have a day job. We build airplanes and helicopters, and then when I have the time, I love to tie flies. Right now I got a little bit more time than usual, so I've been tying quite a bit.
Now, I noticed one of your most recent flies is bat shaped. It looks like a bat. Am I right?
Correct. Yes.
Is that like an ode to the coronavirus right now? Because didn't that start by someone eating a bat or something like that?
No, it's actually it wasn't. It's just the time, and it's funny because I posted it. I was working on a shadow box for another fly tyer, and one of the things he liked was the bat and mice. And so I put together, a bat pattern for him, and then, finished up the shadow box actually just yesterday, which I posted some pictures of. But it just happened. It was the timing, and I don't really pay attention like too hardcore to the media, so I didn't even really know at first that it did kind of the whole virus is from a bat, but it just happened to turn out that way that I posted. And everyone kind of went backwards over it with the whole corona thing and the bat, which was, funny.
Right. Yeah. Because that was the first thing I thought, because everyone's coronavirus freaking out right now. And then here you go posting this bat. And I just thought that was really cool. Now, have you ever fished with a bat pattern at all? Or I know like up here, night fishing with mice or mousing is a pretty popular thing, but I'll be honest with you, I've never heard of anyone fishing with a bat.
I have. I've done a few shadow boxes with the bat pattern in it, but I also have a couple of them in my, my big fly, bass, pike, muskie kind of predator box that I do throw, and I cast fairly well because the wings fold up when you cast it. I don't throw it very far, especially for bass, let's say. So. The casting isn't an issue, but it does work, really well for pike and bass. I've caught a bunch on it.
What is that process for you? How do you develop a pattern? How do you create? What does that creative process look like to you, Steve?
Pretty much, out of kind of like a need for myself, or somebody else will ask me. So if you're like, hey, a bat, I kind of get a couple ideas in my head. I may draw it or I may not, and then pretty much I just sit down at the vise, and I already have in my head, and go from there. I mean, it's always like a ongoing process for me. When I think I've got something figured out, the best that it could be, new material comes out, or maybe I'll see somebody else using a certain technique that blows my mind, so I incorporate that. But especially like for me, the mouse, like I love mousing. I love nighttime fishing, so I'm always tweaking mice, whether they're designed for skating, or chugging, or kind of just sitting in a film. There's a couple different versions that I tie, all for certain scenarios.
Do you go after the bigger species, or are you trout at all, or just mainly bass and pike and larger fish?
I actually prefer. I just love to go out and fish in general. To tell you the truth, but I still do have a big fascination with browns, and browns eating rodents. So I do a lot of nighttime fishing, for the browns, and then with the bigger flies that I tie, say ducks and rats and bats. That's when I go after the bass and the pike or toothy predator species.
Do you guys have a Hex Hatch out there, the Catskills?
we have actually a hex hatch on some of the smaller streams that I fish. And it's pretty mind blowing how small some of these streams are, but the hex hatch can be, pretty intense. And it's not, it's not the whole system. Let's say it's only like particular spots on the system that will really fish well. And some of them have some really nice wild brown. Some of them have some really nice, native brookies. So it's definitely an awesome time.
What's that one fish that you remember catching off one of those smaller streams?
Brookies for sure. I mean, brookies will always be one of my favorite, fish. Just because I grew up catching them. I had, I was in a great location on a beautiful little creek that not too many people fished, and it actually had some very big brookies. Of course, and their colors are absolutely beautiful. So that's definitely one of my all-time favorite fish that hopefully I'll fish for forever.
Do you go over like a 3-weight, or what size do you usually fish with?
I usually use a 3-weight. Sometimes I'll use a kind of more longer nymphing rod. Other times I use like a 6-foot or 6'6", graphite or fiberglass rod.
On the fiberglass, I mean that's a popular thing we've talked about. We had Chris Barclay on the podcast. He makes fiberglass rods and what's the guy's name with glass is not dead. God, my mind's going blank. But a lot of people are fishing the fiberglass. Do you enjoy that? And what do you like about that exactly?
Well, I mean, I love the fight, of course, and there's just something about glasses. It's just great. I use a lot of Livingston Rod Company rods for fishing like up in the Great Lakes, and it works out really well because they're a great shock absorber just because of the flex that they have, and they're super durable. I mean, you can really put them through their paces, and you don't have to worry about any incidents of them exploding or breaking. And when a huge fish makes a run, I feel really comfortable with the glass that I'm not going to snap them off on light tippet.
Yeah, Cameron Mortensen is who I was thinking about. But yeah, it seems like people who are glass are like all glass. They love it, and they're great rods.
The newer glass too, I've tried fishing like some older glass, and I can't say I'm the greatest at it. The newer glass definitely, helps me out. But, it definitely seems like it's two different, beasts.
Yeah, for sure. They've come a long ways. Now you said you rebuild helicopters and airplanes as your day job?
Yeah. Yes.
Do you use fly tying as a way? I mean, that could be a pretty stressful job. I know there's a lot of regulations and FAA stuff. Do you use fly tying a lot just to kind of unwind?
Yeah, I think in general, not even particularly from my main job. Just from everything in life. Life can definitely be stressful in general, but fly tying is really a nice way for me to I go into I'm lucky enough that I have my own little fly tying room, and I got all kinds of goodies in there, and it's kind of nice to just get in there, and it's like when you're out on the creek, like I don't think about anything except fishing when I'm on a river or a creek, and when I'm in my fly tying room, I really don't think about anything except for fly tying, which is put you at peace.
Right, it does. I think a lot of people have found that fly fishing and fly tying, using it, it's a good way to find some peace for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a getaway from all the stresses of life.
Yeah. Do you have a family, Steve, or?
I do. I have an awesome wife and a beautiful daughter.
Okay. And that's very stressful, making a living for your family, taking care of your family. Just that alone, outside of your job and all that comes with that, can be very difficult.
Yeah, no, it is. I'm lucky because my wife supports me, 100% whatever I do. She, enjoys, watching me design and make and go out and fish it. And my daughter, is right there, with me too. She loves to, tie flies. She'll go, she'll tie for like a bunch of months, and then she'll kind of go on a hiatus. But then, she's tying it. Since I cleaned the desk off, now she's back at it again, and she loves it. She's very artistic, so it's another way for her to, show her talents, or what a way for her to get out too.
Now, how old is your daughter?
She's 10.
Oh, wow. And she's tying flies. She probably ties better than I do, to be honest with you.
Yeah, it's like one of those things, when she ties for, weeks on end with me, she's like spot on. And then, if she doesn't tie for a while, it's a little bit to catch back up. But she does tie some pretty cool stuff.
Does your wife fish or tie with you at all, or?
My wife actually wants to tie. It's I have to actually show her, and I'm sure once I do, she'll be very well at, or do really good at it. And we just like to be outside, in general, especially on the river, whether it be in kayaks or the drift boat or the raft, fishing, or just sitting back, relaxing, usually if I'm there, I've got a rod and ready to go. But just being on the water in general with the family is, family and friends. All of our friends love the outdoors as well, so we spend a lot of time on the river.
If you could only if you could only tie one fly for the rest of your life, what fly would that be?
Personally, for me, it would be the emperor mouse, my mouse pattern there, just because, I love mousing in general, and that fly I've put a lot of R into, and it works wonderfully. So I would definitely, or just the mouse pattern in general. I just love mousing.
That's pretty amazing. So if people wanted to get in touch with you or check out your flies, we'll put all the links in our show notes, but how would they get in touch with you, Steve?
Usually I just use social media. So it would just be, Steve Yewchuck on Facebook, and then Envision Flyworks is my little business that I go by on Instagram.
Okay, great. Well, we'll put all those links. Do you sell your flies too, or you just design them, or?
I do sell small orders. I try to keep them kind of on the smaller end, so it's not too time consuming for one order. But yeah, I do sell quite a few, mouse patterns especially.
Well, that's really awesome. Well, we'll put all those links up. And I really appreciate you taking some time with me, Steve. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for having me on. I appreciate it greatly.
Well, thank you for hanging out with us today on the Remote No Pressure Podcast. Thank you, Bill, for hanging out with me.
Oh, it's always a pleasure.
You got any plans here in the next week? What's your goals while you're in quarantine?
There's a few things I want to tackle online, like educational wise for work. Otherwise, just kind of lay low and stay healthy.
Yeah, everyone stay low and get healthy.
Stay low and lay healthy.
Stay low and lay healthy. You're such a jerk. Everyone stay low and stay healthy. Anyways.
Go ahead.
I'm so glad that we figured out. I know you're not here, but I'm so glad you're my co-host, Bill, because you make it a lot more fun here.
I appreciate that.
Yeah, you're welcome. Well, until next time, go fishing.